All right, y'all, Winnie here. This is Winning with Winnie, where you gonna win because you with me. Okay, so tonight I'm doing something a little bit different. Now, a lot of y'all know that I do a lot of personal development. Like, I'm trying to understand a whole lot of stuff about myself, about the world around me, about why things are the way that they are, whatever, right? So lately, I've been thinking about being in survival mode. Some years ago, I had somebody tell me, like, oh my gosh, you're living in survival mode. And I was like, I don't even know what you're saying, but it sounds bad, so I don't even want to know more about it. But recently, I started to really look into, like, what does it mean to be in survival mode? What does this look like? And so after doing some research, I have come up with my own definition of what survival mode is. And I want to share that with y'all. And I've also come up with, a couple of things that people have said who have also been looking into this topic. They said it looks like, felt like, combined with my own things. And then got a couple sources and some ways for y'all to get out of it if you find that you are one of the people who live in survival mode. So, just to define it so we can be clear about what survival mode is, it is, first of all, let's talk about survive, which is to stay alive, typically after hardship or danger. Okay. I define personally survival mode as staying alive in a state that expects the hardship or danger to continue even after it is gone or long gone. Um, for me, this is different from being alive because when we're alive, we're alert, we're active, we're animate, and we can operate, in our full self. So just simply surviving and being in survival mode is different from being alive. It's different from living because we don't have the energy that we have when we're living, when we're in survival mode. We kind of have like tunnel vision, and that tunnel vision is just like get things done, get bills paid, which brings me into what it looks like. So if we can have like just kind of one broad understanding of what survival mode is, it is just getting by day to day. It's living literally day to day. It's not having any midterm, long term goals or plans for your life. It is literally like, let me make it through this day without a fight, without running into drama, without running into trouble, and I'll be good, right? Some of the things that other people have said it looks like for them is drowning. Like there's too much of everything and not enough time to get to it all the time. Like it just is nonstop. It just keep on going. Like everything needs my attention. Everything needs me. Oh my gosh. It's kind of like, it's a state of chaos. So I see it personally as a state of chaos. Like everything around you is like bad. It's negative. It is just crazy. There's no control around us. Like everybody going crazy. Um, and I see it as a lack of self-governance, right? Like you're unable to tell yourself, hey, it's all good in the neighborhood. Like we okay. We is all right. We can start focusing on other things that are outside of the basic of just like I need a job so I can pay the bills, so I can feed the people, so I can blah blah blah. It's like being able to go beyond just meeting the basic needs. And I'm not sure if a lot of y'all know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but if you don't know about it, I would definitely recommend y'all to check out Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is literally like a little triangle, a little pyramid, and it has basic needs, it has like self-esteem needs, love needs, ego needs, and then self-actualizing, which everybody wants to self-actualize. That means we want to be our highest self, who is able to like find who we are, what we want to do in this world, and voila, live a happy life, happily ever after, right? Um, so some more about what it looks like, and y'all have things written down so I don't forget, because we know that I can blah 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 all day long, so I'm gonna keep it on track. Um, it is a lot of saying no to yourself and a lot of saying yes to other people when you don't want to. It's people pleasing, and it is losing yourself in order to meet the needs of other people out of fear of losing peace, out of fear of losing people, and for whatever other reasons that you may have to be codependent and just like needing other people to validate you. Um, so it looks like going outside of yourself to find what's inside of you. So a lot of us who are living in survival mode, you'll notice that we tend to have unhealthy relationships, right? not just with people, but sometimes with food, sometimes with like work, with addictions and all these different things. Because what happens when we're in survival mode is that we're always on the hunt for things outside of ourselves to fulfill ourselves, right? So with me, my issue with survival was mostly in relationships, right? So I've had a lot of really messed up relationships. Like, I've been sexually abused. My dad died when I was young. I was in an abusive household, like a physically abusive household as a young child, and all of these different things. So I started to look for people outside of myself to kind of like make me feel like I'm worthy. Like, if you're not abusing me, then I'm depending on you to keep me feeling like I'm worthy, right? And that's another thing that survival mode kind of looks like. It's like you want people to give you peace. It's depending on the government to give you happiness, to give you good health, to give you money, to give you anything. Like, it's things like that. Now, I'm not saying this is exclusively exclusive to government or anything like that, but what I am saying is just like there are a lot of needs that we have that we can meet ourselves, but we're going outside of ourselves and depending on other people to provide them for us because we are stuck in survival mode, where it's just like my focus is on housing, food, clothes, sex, not love, sex, and all these other things. And I want to touch on sex real quick, y'all, because I don't think a lot of us think of this, but a lot of people who are in survival mode have lots of sex. This is why you see people who are living in like really impoverished neighborhoods having a lot of sex, having a lot of children, and all these different things, because sex is a basic need. So our basic needs, when we're in survival mode, they seem amplified. We need a lot more of sex. We need a lot more of food. We need a lot more of clothes. We need a lot more of everything, right? So just keep that in mind. And I'm just going to try to go through a couple more of these. We are a lot more reactive, not proactive. So that means we respond and we react to everything. We kind of like expect things to come at us. We expect the day to be hard. We expect the day to be bad. We expect that somebody's going to say something crazy to us. So we're already ready to respond, to react to other things, but we're not proactive. That means we don't set ourselves up to have a good day. We're not getting up in the morning saying, you know what, I'm about to have a good day. My day is going to go just like this. I don't care what anybody else does or anybody else says. This is how my day is going to go. We don't set ourselves up to not expect the worst. Okay. So you got to set yourself up to expect the best out of your day, expect the best out of yourself. Nothing gets better. There is no light at the end of the tunnel when you are in survival mode. It's like, my life is miserable. I can't do nothing. I don't have no skills. I don't have no talents. I don't have no abilities. I don't know where to go. Like, what do I do? What do I do? Right? It's like one of those things where it's just like there literally is no light at the end of the tunnel. You can't see anything because you're clouded in just making it by and making it through the day. There is a low sense of abundance. That means you don't see the wealth that exists around you. You don't see that there are opportunities galore. You cannot see the opportunities. Like, literally the door can be open right in front of you, and when you're in survival mode, you're going to run right past the door because you don't see the door as an opportunity to get out for whatever reason. Okay. And then finally, on what this kind of can look like and how it can manifest itself in your life, you are hardened. Okay. Hardened or overly softened. So like you are under emotional, like your emotional response is either way over the top or just almost non-existent. So if you find yourself in any of those like categories of things, or if you relate to anything on those lists, you might be in survival mode. So you might want to listen to see like some of the reasons for these things and how you could potentially get out of them. So sources of being in survival mode, some of the reasons, some of the causes for you getting in survival mode. The number one thing is trauma. Okay, trauma. Something happened to you at some point in your life, whether it was physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it was. Something happened to you. You endured some sort of abuse that just kind of like put you in this state of like, oh shit, what do I do? Okay, let me just focus on surviving, making it through the day without this person saying anything to me, doing anything to me, beating me, abusing me sexually, or emotionally and mentally just eating me up. Like, those are some of the more common sources of survival mode. And then also fear. Now, y'all, let's talk about fear. Fear is not always real. So there's two types of fear. There's real fear and there's imagined fear. So real fear is like you have an actual reason to be afraid because something is actually happening and you're seeing it happen, or you can feel that it's happening, or you can hear that it's happening. So you're like getting afraid. Now, imagine can be induced by things like the news. This is why negative news, let's be real clear, negative news. This is why I don't like to involve myself in a lot of negative news. This is why I don't like to get into groups or join groups that are so focused on negativity, because those things can induce fear in you. And even if the things are not real or imminent, aka immediate fear or immediate dangers to yourself, by having this like imagined sense of fear, by having this fear that's induced by things that are really not a danger to you, you start to put yourself in survival mode. So this is why we see a lot of people who live in really safe areas, really safe neighborhoods, had really safe upbringings and backgrounds and all these things. This is why we see a lot of people living like fearful of certain things like the police. Like, I can't say that I'm invincible to running into something with a police officer who doesn't like black people. But what I can say is that from the majority of experiences I've had in my personal life, they have been fairly decent and fairly okay, right? But if I am always listening to news and media that's talking about how cops are targeting black people and black people are being killed at record rates by cops, then as soon as I get into the proximity or an area where cops are, then I'm going to start being fearful. And sometimes that imagined fear, it can make you react negatively to where you kind of like self-prophesy. And self-prophesying is nothing more than you're making things that aren't real become real. Like, you're behaving in ways that actually heighten your chances of experiencing something, right? So this is something that can induce survival mode when it isn't even needed. Also anxiety, being worried about things. Again, this is something that negative news and abuse can bring on to you. And most importantly, just not having your needs met, your basic needs met, through childhood, through teenagehood, through adulthood. If you don't have those things met, then you can get into this state of survival mode where it's just like, I need to make it by. I need to eat food. I need to have something to drink. I need to have, I need to have shelter. I need something, right? So those are some of the sources. This is not all conclusive, okay? Not by any means whatsoever. And I want to tell y'all this before I go on. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. So if you need help, please, therapists, counselors, and them, I'm not related to them. So you can get better information and more information from those types of people. This is just me, independent research, looking back on my own life experiences and all of that good stuff. So some of the ways to get out of survival mode, in my humble opinion and from some of my research, and I have them written down, is to, first of all, acknowledge that you're in it. Acknowledge that, like, oh shit, I'm in survival mode. Like, I've had to acknowledge that for myself. Like, hold on, like, am I just living to survive? And the answer was yes. And how did I know that the answer was yes? Well, I didn't have any goals for myself. It was hard to even think about setting goals because it was like, I just need to get through this day. If I can get through this day, then I can set a goal. But what you don't realize is that when you say, if I can get through this day, I can set a goal, then that leads you into another day where you're like, if I could just get through this day, I can set a goal. So acknowledge it, and then start to actually like come up with a plan. Like, how am I going to set aside some time to focus on my future, to focus on becoming who it is that I'm trying to become, or who I want to become, or achieving the life that I want to have, the thing that I know like would make me feel really good and that would be good for me and the people around me. And then you got to start saying no to people. You got to start saying no. You cannot people please. Like, people pleasing has to end. If you want survival mode to end, then people pleasing, like, you got to end it. Now, there are some instances, there are some cases where people pleasing is just literally for you to just get the hell away from somebody and be done with them, right? But this should not be our day to day. This should not be our all the time. This should not be a tool that we're using frequently. Otherwise, it's a problem, okay? So start saying no to people and make peace with yourself, okay? Understand that you cannot control this world. You cannot control everything that's going on in the world. You cannot control everything that's happening to people outside of yourself, but you can control you. Make peace with you. Say, you know what? I'm going to make the conscious decision to start living my life in a way that I enjoy, that I like, right? In a way that is healthy for me and the people around me. Not just for me, because sometimes we can live a life that is good for ourselves, but it's harmful to other people. So you got to make sure that when you are setting yourself up to live a life that's good for you, you got to make sure that anybody who comes around you is also going to be beneficial and good for them too. Okay? Dream more. This is my favorite thing nowadays, y'all. Dreaming. Some of us think dreaming is so corny, like sitting around and daydreaming and envisioning and imagining our life in the future. But it's not. It is not. Dreaming is just like going through like the things that we want to happen in our lives and putting ourselves mentally in a state where we can feel the things, where we can see them, where we're like, oh man, that beach. Oh, that beach seems so relaxing. Oh man, like, you know, it's just being able to put ourselves in the position that we're not yet in, but it's for the better of ourselves, right? It's for us to one day be able to actually experience that and come up with a plan for your future. So make the choice. When you're dreaming, you're going to have a lot of things like, oh, it would be so nice if I could do this. Oh, it would be so nice if I could do that. Oh, it would be so lovely if I could just be this, right? Use those things because no, most often when you're dreaming, this is like your higher self. And it's like literally, I know it sounds weird, but your higher self just tapping into things that really interest you, that really intrigue you. So start making a plan for your future. Like, this is what I want my life to look like. This is what I want to do. And this is how I plan to get there. And another key piece of making a plan for your future is getting into personal development, getting into self-help, things like that. I did a lot of self-help, y'all. I actually have some recommended reads for self-help. The first one is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. The second one is also a James Allen book, and it's called From Poverty to Power. And then there's one by Brenda Euland. It's called So You Think or So You Want to Write, or If You Want to Write, something like that. Just look up Brenda Euland. And then The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, really good book. And what else? Think and Grow Rich is a really good book for development, kind of self-help-ish type of stuff. Those are my top reads. Those are the things that I've had the most like success and help out of, along with a mix and a combination of YouTubers, like what's the guy's name? Actualize.org. There's a guy over there. And Infinite Waters by Ralph Smart and Sadhguru. Like, these are all different people. And I will make this disclaimer. Not all of these people who author the books, not all the people who lead the channels and stuff are Christian. So if you're a Christian person and you follow me like for my Christian things, just know that. But me, I'm like, what is it? Who is the guy? Mahatma Gandhi, he said, you know, basically the wise person, he sees the good in all religion and, you know, he takes the good information. Something like that. I can't remember it verbatim right now, but y'all can always go look up these things. Affirmations. Got 2 more things left, y'all. Affirmations, which is just positivity. It's telling yourself positive things. So if your problem is like feeling like nobody loves you or nobody wants you, then instead of saying that to yourself and allowing your brain and your mind to run off and accept those things as true, you tell yourself every day, I am loved. People do love me. People do want me in their lives. Like, I matter. Okay? You have to tell yourself this. And then the more you tell yourself these types of things, the more these things start to become real, the more that they become true in your life. And then if one of your problems is money and you feel like you're not worthy of money, you can't get money, money is evil, then you also got to change your mind around those things. Affirmations, like change your mind and say, you know what, I deserve abundance of money. Money is good, money is fluid, I have access to it, and stuff like that. And if you have a fear of somebody who's going to hurt you or whatever, you have to be able to tell yourself, I'm safe now, right? I'm safe now. And this is assuring yourself that you're safe. So that way you can come out of survival mode. It's saying, literally, my kids are arguing. They cray. It's late. It's too late for this. But you got to assure yourself that you're safe. And a way to assure yourself that you're safe is affirming yourself, is walking outside in the morning and saying, you know what? I made it outside. It was okay. I didn't get hurt. I didn't get harmed. I'm okay. Is looking around your life and saying, I'm pretty safe. Like, nobody's in my house abusing me mentally, physically, emotionally, and if they are, it's getting yourself to safety and knowing that it's important to get yourself to safety, to actually reach out to somebody who's a professional in this and to get help with that, right? So you always want to get help. And I will put the number for National Domestic Violence Line and Suicide Line and all those things in the bottom, because I understand that some of us are really going through it, and we tend to reach out to people who don't have experience with the things that we need help with, and it makes it really difficult for us to get the help that we need. But for those of you who don't have immediate danger around you, or you don't really have much immediate danger around you at all other than like driving through traffic, you want to make sure that you're assuring yourself, like, that you're telling yourself, like, I'm okay. Like, my bills are paid. I have food. I have clothes. I have a place to stay, even if I'm staying with somebody else. Like, you just got to remind yourself of the good that's happening around you, because survival mode, it gets fed more and more and more when we focus on things that are negative. When we focus on things that remind us of the situations that we were in that got us to survival mode in the first place. Y'all, I want y'all to know that it's possible to get out of survival mode. There are many forms of survival mode. So if you think like, I'm just going to infinitely be out of it, you're not. And it's a normal thing to be in when you are faced with certain situations, but it's not something that you should stay or remain in, okay? The goal for us here is to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become, like become stronger, become better, to actually start focusing on our dreams, to start moving forward in life. Y'all, this is Winnie. This is Winning with Winnie. God is good, life is good, and we are all amazingly blessed. I love y'all so much. And hey, if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask me. Like I said, I'm not a professional as far as like credentialed professional therapist or anything like that in these areas. I am simply a person who is trying to understand my life in order to help other people get out of their situations and circumstances. Love y'all.